And after the horrific terror attack in Brussels, let's try and understand the rise of the threat called ISIS. And to discuss that in the studio, we have with us General Dhruv Katoch, editor, Salute Magazine, also ex-deputy director, Center for Land Warfare Studies. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So the Brussels attack, a high security area such as an airport, do you think the ISIS threat is at its highest all time?
No, we really do not know how high it is going to go. After the Paris attack, we thought that would be the highest.
Right.
Now we've gone to Brussels.
Right. They're pushing the limits.
So they're pushing the limits, and I think they're going to continue to push the limits.
Right. And the degree of planning and preparation required to penetrate through a high security place like an airport. I believe it's the third such attack in an airport after after the September attack that took place in America, September 11 attacks. Not seldom do we see terror attacks taking place at such high security areas as the airport.
That is true. In fact, it really surprises me how they actually managed to get an assault rifle inside the airport. So to some extent, I think the level of security at airports across the world, we need to change those levels too.
Right.
We have a similar problem in India, but here the security is reasonably tight, and I do not think problems of that nature can come in as of now.
Right, and how important it is to see different terror groups in different contexts. How do you see ISIS as different from the other terror groups such as Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda, through their modus operandi? How different do you think ISIS is, the kind of terror, the kind of name that has established for itself? How do you look at ISIS as different from the other terror groups that operate around it?
I think what ISIS has really done is they have been able to successfully exploit the media. And they've done this very successfully, especially the use of the social media.
Right.
And when they carry out their killings, they do it in such a dramatic fashion that it catches the eyeballs. If you actually go into the number of killings which have taken place by ISIS and Boko Haram, you won't see much of a difference, you see.
Right.
But the way ISIS has been...
The propaganda that they kind of invested.
You could say the propaganda. The way they have done it, I think it is a masterpiece of psychological
It's
warfare.
unprecedented.
It is
beheadings and other such cruel acts, the way they kind of showed through YouTube.
Yes.
And if you look at ISIS or any terror organization as an industry, I mean, we know that ISIS controls large swaths of oil fields in Iraq and parts of Syria as well. And there are these channels of trade through black market, dedicated workforce of jihadists. So this marketing that is taking place of the propaganda of terror, that is very unique to ISIS.
It is very unique to ISIS, but let us also remember what is happening is something unique. Who is buying the oil? If you have to sort out the funding of ISIS, then people have to stop buying the oil. But you will find that is not happening. So when you're looking at the situation in West Asia, you're looking at a very complicated situation, especially in the areas which are controlled by ISIS, or what we call Daesh now.
Right. And we look at young people traveling across the continents, swayed by the propaganda of ISIS. We see a lot of lone wolf attacks happening across the world who say they're inspired by ISIS. How do you think that's being managed, sir?
I think they have made very effective use of the social media. In fact, they have been brilliant at the social media, and a whole lot of psychological brainwashing has been done by simply through the internet. The problem, the way I have looked at it is, the problem is the counter-narrative. And very recently in India, we had the Sufi conference, the International Sufi Conference, where Mr. Tahirul Qadri had come. He is the founder of Minhajul Quran, and he's a very renowned academic. Now, people like him are, in fact, he very specifically stated that from the time of the Prophet, the Prophet had, during his time, the Prophet had predicted the rise of an organization like ISIS. And he has very clearly stated, the Prophet himself has stated that these people are the enemies of Islam and they should be terminated.
The threat always existed.
Yes. So, but the problem is that message has to go across now. If people like Tahirul Qadri and others like him, they have to spread this message amongst the Muslim world that all the actions which are being carried out by the ISIS, by Boko Haram, by the Taliban, these are all un-Islamic and those people are not Muslims. Now, if you can carry out that sort of counter narrative amongst the Muslim youth across the world.
And how do you see that happening, sir? What would be the actual way of doing it? Sufi conference was, of course, a major step in this direction, but how would you see it, the counter narrative being spread across the world?
Let me look at it from the Indian point of view. I think if we have to look at the counter narrative, especially from the Indian point of view, let me look at simply passing the message of people like Tahirul Qadri in small leaflets which are easily understandable amongst all the madrasas which are there in India. Right. So education, I think, is the first step.
Right.
The second step is, I think we have not really been able to tell the Indian public what goes on once these people go and join the ISIS or other organizations like
But
that.
the truth never really comes
You
out
see,
from there.
now, what is really happening is that when some of the few Indians who have gone, they have been sexually brutalized. We have to understand that. The people who have gone there, they have been sexually brutalized and they have been treated like simple scavengers and servants.
You don't get to become any warrior or a soldier.
They do not become warriors, right? Now, I think that message has to go across. You know, they are treated with contempt. So if you are going to leave your families, your home and hearth in India, and you're going to go across,
Right.
and if you're going to be treated, you're going to be sexually. I'm talking about the men. The men are being sexually abused, right? They are being treated as cattle, right? And now they come back. I really don't know if they've got a face to come back. Even they can't even face their parents.
Right.
So we as a nation, we have to give them multiple messages. That
the need to
this is not
sensitize is
yes,
very
we have to
important.
sensitize. One, it is anti-Islamic. Now, this teaching of anti-Islamic cannot be done by people like me.
Right.
It has to be done by the Muslim clergy, and it has to be done in the madrasas.
Right,
It has to be pervasive.
Right. Well, that's all the time we had in this discussion, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. So